All right. Thank you, Cecilia. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks to each of you for spending some time this evening to come learn a little bit more about the University of Virginia Darden School of Business. This is a side view of our school, and it is located in Charlottesville, Virginia. For those of you who are not familiar with Charlottesville, it is 2 hours south of Washington, D.C. So that hopefully puts it on the map for those of you who aren't familiar with the school. I would love for this to be as engaging as possible. So if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat box or the Q&A. I'll try to keep my eye on them as we're going through. Okay. So let's get started. So the three things I really want to focus on is the education experience at Darden, the career and professional support, and our culture and community. When you start looking at MBA programs, I think rankings can be a great place to start, but they do not tell the whole story. There are vast differences between schools that are ranked very closely together. And if you go look at all of the schools' websites, they all say the same thing. They talk about their education, they talk about their international experiences, they talk about their communities, and they're all true. But let's go a little bit deeper today about Darden so that you can help understand what differentiates Darden's program from the other programs you're considering. So the first thing is our teaching style. Darden is one of very few MBA programs in the United States that teaches its core curriculum entirely through the case method of instruction. And so what does that mean? What does that look like? It means that as a student at Darden, you will get 3 cases every day that you will read through on your own. And then you will go meet with your learning team. And your learning team is a group of 6 students that has been assigned to you by the school. We will actually take information from your admissions application and make sure that the other students on your team come from different industries, different job functions, different ethnicities, different countries of origin, different genders, diversity in a whole different number of ways. And we say, all of you have had experiences that have shaped the way you see the world that are different from the people on your team. So help each other out and use each other's experiences, leverage them to make strong decisions as if you were making this decision in this case as the leader of the organization you're studying. And then when you go to class the next day, classes at Darden start at 8 a.m. You have 3 classes a day, and you will be in the same classroom from 8 until 1:30. We have 5 sections, section A, section B, section C, D, and E, and nobody on your learning team will be in your section. So your learning team is purely there to support you and get you ready for class. But then when you go to class the next day, you will not be competing with anybody on your learning team for class participation points. And the professor will walk into the room. They'll ask everybody on the first day of school, the professor will ask everyone to put down their name tent, and they will go around the room and they will call on each student by name because they have a seating chart back on their laptops. And if they hover their name over your, hover their mouse over your name, up pops your picture, an audio recording of you pronouncing your name the way you like it to be pronounced, and a copy of your resume. And so they prepare that way for class, knowing who's going to have an informed perspective on the case given their background and who the material is a little bit newer for. And they leverage those experiences to make the conversation really dynamic and students really exchanging ideas amongst one another. So the first class is from 8 to 9:30. At 9:30 is one of the big traditions at the university, which is called First Coffee. And the entire school comes together for coffee and conversation from 9:30 to 10. Sometimes we have announcements. We always have food and coffee. And then you go back to the classroom from 10 to 11:30. And then you get a 30-minute break, and then maybe a snack, and then one last class from 12 to 1:30. So classes are Monday through Thursday, and then on Fridays you can spend your time focusing more on the career search, and then you have your weekend free. And so that's kind of the rhythm and roll of the case method of Darden. Your first year is all case, your core curriculum, and then in the second year is when you'll have opportunities to explore electives. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit about what the classroom experience is like at school. One of the benefits of learning through the case method is that it really teaches you to think on your feet. You never know who's going to get called on and who's going to be asked to share their perspective. The way classes always start off is calling on a student in the room, asking the student, what is the decision that we need to make today? And how did you go about making the decision? And so there you go. You have the platform, the microphone, and it is your turn to share what you think should be done. And so this teaches you by practice how to have opinions, how to make decisions, how to defend your decisions, and how to communicate in an effective way where you are heard and respected. And those skills are extremely valuable in the real world. Here's a question. Thank you for the question. What type of benefits offer Darden San Francisco headquarters for MBA candidates? So we do have a team in San Francisco, and they are focusing on nurturing relationships with startups in the Bay Area and creating opportunities for our students in venture capital and entrepreneurship on the West Coast. We teach a couple of classes out in San Francisco, but mostly the team in San Francisco is focused on internship and externship opportunities for our students. All right, just Darden welcome students' families to have access to libraries, gyms, etc. You have to have a student ID to get into the gyms, but you can add people onto your account. All right, libraries, yes. All right. So career resources and outcomes. All right, so Darden's Career Center model is robust. We offer one-to-one advising with MBA career experts. These career experts are all MBAs, as I said, and they all have experience working in the industry that you want to go into. They've been there, they've done it. And so those are the people that you can lean on for support. You're also going to have a second year student coach. And that is a student who has said, I really want to be helpful to first year students. And so I'm going to take a class called second year coaching. The grade that they receive is going to be based on how good of a job the first year student thinks the second year help them with their job search. And so the fact that we have almost 2/3 of our second year students who want to be a coach, who want to help first years, I think says a lot about the supportive community. We have a global network of alumni all across the world. We'll talk about that in a second. And then I think one of the biggest benefits, when you get to business school, companies come right away and you don't have as much time perhaps as you would like to explore different industries and functions. So Darden starts working with admitted students in the spring before they matriculate. And we put you through a module called CDY. It's 3 modules. The first module is, okay, now you've been working for a few years, you've learned a lot about yourself. What have you learned about yourself? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What industries are interesting to you? Which ones do you want to explore? So you'll have to do that. The second module, you're going to be asked to identify 10 target companies who you think would be interesting to work for and do a little bit of research. Does this company hire MBAs? If they do hire MBAs, what roles do they hire MBAs into? So that you have clear expectations of what is most likely to happen coming out of an MBA program. And the third module is when you meet with the career coach to work on your LinkedIn profile and work on your resume and to get your plan of action intact before school starts. So when school starts, you know exactly what path you're heading down and how you're getting there. So all of that career support starts before you even get to the school. For our international students, we have a member of our career team who focuses solely on working with our international students, supporting them with their career process. You have courses and information about U.S. work authorization and adapting to U.S. culture. We have recruitment guides and postings, and all of our postings indicate, does this company hire international students, yes or no? So that was actually part of the question that was just asked. So a lot of this is going to be workshops, one-on-one sessions with our Denise Carioli and our Career Center. And then also the student clubs are going to be super helpful. So actually the most popular club at Darden is LASA, which stands for the Latin American Student Association. I think it's because they have a lot of fun. But anyways, the LASA is going to be super helpful for all of the Latin students coming to Darden for recruitment, and to explain how they did it, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and advice they would have for you since you're going through it now. Thanks for all these questions. I appreciate them. All right, so here is a list of our alumni outcomes. I actually, just out of curiosity, pulled up our alums in Colombia. We have over 100 alums in Colombia, and I was going to share with you what they are currently doing, but the job, the companies and the functions that they are in are incredibly diverse and all over the place, which I think speaks highly to the value of the MBA degree. It really is a leadership degree, it's a management degree, and all industries need strong leaders and managers. And so this degree, you really can take it in a lot of different directions, which is nice to see. All right. So here are some fun rankings for Darden. We're continually ranked #1 for our faculty for teaching. It's a lot harder to teach in a case school than in a lecture school. For a lecture, you just come in and you read your notes, take a few questions, and leave. With the case discussion, you have no idea what direction the class is going to take the discussion, and you have to be ready to respond and pivot and pull out all the information. So the faculty are incredibly talented, and they really care a great deal about students. Our faculty will always have students into their homes. They will follow up with you after class and send you emails. I really like what you had to say today. Thanks for taking the conversation from here to here. Or I haven't heard from you in a while. I know you don't feel comfortable speaking up all the time, so I'm going to give you a warm call. I'm calling on you first thing in the morning. Be prepared, be ready. And so, and then, or maybe, you know what, you are speaking up a lot. I know that your partner just had a baby and that you're not getting a lot of sleep at night, but you have got to stop raising your hand to say that you want to echo what somebody else just said, because you are not adding value to this conversation. So the faculty really do spend a lot of one-on-one coaching time with each of their students, which is nice to see. And I think that for those reasons, that's why we're continually ranked the #1 best education experience by the Economist. At the bottom of the slide, you see some of the fun statistics for living in Charlottesville, Virginia. They're all true. I've lived there for 17 years. It's fantastic. The percentage of Latin Americans in a regular Darden class, I don't know the exact percentage. What I can tell you is that 35% of Darden students are international students, with the largest populations being Indian and Chinese. And then right behind that, we have Latin Americans as the third largest population. So probably around 8% if I had to guess. If the methodology of the MBAs are case studies, how is their evaluation? Great question, Alejandra. The students are evaluated, 50% of the evaluation is class participation, and 50% is exams. Now, when I say class participation, it's not about, you don't get points just for cracking the case and having the smartest thing to say. A lot of times you can get really strong class participation points just by asking a good question or asking somebody to repeat something that's complicated and you would like a little bit more explanation. And expectations for one student for class participation will be different from another student. Each individual is thought of as that, an individual, and each professor's goal is to get you to move from one point to the next, and points might be different for different students. So hopefully that's helpful. Exams are typically cases. So you're given a case and they're open book. You can take the exam wherever you want to take it, and you can use whatever resources you want to use to help you with the exam, except for your classmates. Are there any activity or group for spouses? Yes. So partners are included in all events at Darden that are not recruiting related and classroom related, but all of the social events, partners are included, and your partner will probably have just as close of friends coming out of Darden as you do. Actually, I know that's a fact. The Darden Partners Association is a student club that is for partners. They do a lot of events, from social events to supporting admissions events to book clubs to babysitting. They help each other with children, etc. Lots of events taking place with the Darden Partners Association. All right, so question about the case method. There are business schools that use that method. However, they usually are a very old case. That's a really good question. So how old are the cases discussed at UVA? So while our students meet on learning teams, our faculty meet on learning teams as well. And so the faculty come together before they teach and they say, okay, what are the things that we want to teach our students this week? And what cases do we think would do the best job communicating those things? Should we use a case that we taught last year? Should we use a case that we haven't taught in 10 years, but that company is back in the news because of something that just happened? Or should I use the case that I wrote over the weekend? And so they have the flexibility to bring in a lot of different types of content. And so some of the content is going to be older because it's just a great way to learn whatever point they're trying to communicate. And some of the cases will literally have been written the previous weekend. So you're going to get a mixture of fresh cases and older, the oldies but goodies. And so that's one of the benefits of being with a case school. Okay, majors and concentrations. That's a great question. So the way I think about it is the first year at Darden is going to be your core curriculum. So you don't really have a lot of choice. You get 3 electives at the very end. And then you have a summer internship. And hopefully you have a great experience and you get a full-time job offer and you're all happy-go-lucky. And when you return to school, you get to take whatever electives you want. Some students will start recruiting again the second year in September and try to get into a different company than the one that they were at before, or try a different industry because they really didn't feel a fit with the prior industry. Or maybe they had a summer internship that they knew wasn't going to evolve into a full-time offer. Maybe it was with a startup, but it was for the experience, and now they're recruiting again in September of their second year. And that happens. This is also when you're choosing your electives. Darden offers, I think, like 25-ish concentrations. They're on our website. You won't actually have to declare a concentration. So at no point do you need to communicate to the school your plan to concentrate in something. You will just see the courses that are available. And if you want to concentrate, you'll know which ones you need to take. 1 week before you graduate, you will receive an email from the UVA registrar that says, congratulations, you have completed all of the courses that you need to qualify for these 3 concentrations. If you want the concentration, sign the form. And if you sign the form, you get the concentration. It will not be listed on your diploma. It will not be listed on your transcript, but you can put it on your resume. The only exception is a management science concentration, and that is popular amongst international students because it gives you a 3rd year of eligibility to work in the United States. That will be on your transcript. And so I would say about a 1/3 of our students intentionally pick a concentration. A 1/3 of our students do not concentrate. And then a 1/3 of our students accidentally concentrate. So I guess that answers the second question. You don't need to declare a major. It's really an MBA degree. It's easy to pursue more than 1 concentration. Just take the classes that are needed. The core classes in the Darden MBA are similar to most top MBA programs. It's going to be finance, accounting, operations, decision analysis, global economies and markets, marketing, leadership, management. I know ethics. So Darden is the first MBA program to make ethics part of its core curriculum, strategy, and I think I'm forgetting 1 or 2. Are there academic support services on campus such as tutoring? Yes, there are. There are second years who tutor first years, and then there's always a student in every section that sets up tutoring sessions and reviews prep sessions before exams. And elective courses, there's a lot of them. I encourage you to check them out on our website. All right, so how is students' life like in Charlottesville? Well, isn't that a great question and a timely one as well? So Charlottesville is a smaller city than many, and one of the benefits of going to school in a smaller city is that usually nobody in your class is from there. And what that means is that everybody has left their community and their home to invest in a 2-year MBA experience. And so everyone's looking to make new friends, and the friends that you spend time with on the weekdays are the friends that you spend time with on the weekends. You don't need to go anywhere to find something to do. There are so many things to do in Charlottesville. There's incredible music scene. There's incredible cuisine scene. There are, I think it's like 27 wineries within driving distance of the city. And if you don't have a car, you'll have a million classmates with a car who would be happy to give you a lift to a winery or a brewery. Okay, so how many percentage of students follow exchange programs outside US? So UVA has a partnership with, I think, like over 20 MBA programs that are located outside of the United States. And these are MBA programs that we have said we will accept credit from these programs toward your MBA at Darden. And it's a smaller group than you might think who study abroad. And the reason for that is if you're trying to get a job in the United States, it's pretty difficult to get a job in the United States if you are not in the United States. And the other reason is because UVA is such a small, or business school is only 2 years. And so it's hard to leave your classmates for a period of time when you don't have as much time as you would probably like to get to know them and spend time with them. All right, why does the UVA not have an exchange program inside the United States? So we do not, and I don't know the reason for that, but I can tell you we do offer worldwide courses, and those are opportunities to travel with a faculty member and some of your classmates to different locations across the globe, and those include the United States. So we do, one of our worldwide courses goes to San Francisco, we've had one in New Orleans, we've had one in New York, we have one in Washington, DC. So opportunities for you to see different cities in the United States and study a subject with your professors and classmates, and those take place in January and spring break and in June. Darden has partnered with the consortium. I think we're the members of the consortium for over 20 years. How are the Future Year Scholar Program Round 1 and Round 2 deadlines affected for consortium applicants? So if you're applying to the Future Year Scholars Program, it's separate from the consortium, but we can refer you into the consortium the year you choose to matriculate. So you can still be a part of the consortium, you just won't actually submit your application through the consortium, if that makes sense. And if you have extra questions on that, send me an email and I'll try to answer them for you. How can you request a TOEFL waiver? So we don't offer waivers for the TOEFL. If you attended a university where the medium of instruction was English, then we will waive the TOEFL, or you don't have to take the TOEFL. If you have a graduate degree, the English language test is optional. If you're a US citizen, that's a good question. I would send an email to the Darden inbox to ask that question, because it does seem like there could be an exception there. Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Darden culture. I appreciate that question. So Darden's culture is incredibly close and tight-knit, a very supportive environment to be in. I think part of it is because we teach through the case method, and the learning teams require you to help each other out, and they're set up so that you're not competing with people on your learning team. A lot of the students will talk about how Darden is all about how can we get that job instead of how can I get that job. So there's this mentality like that. It's hard to tell you what Darden's culture is like when you can't visit it, especially because of COVID, but I can tell you in a non-COVID time, if you were to show up at Darden for an admissions interview and you were wearing a suit and dressed professionally for your interview, students would stop you and say, you must be here for an interview. Good luck. Do you have any questions? Can I be helpful? If you were to go to class, so you would have to stand up, you'd have to introduce yourself, you would have to draw an icebreaker out of a hat, and answer the question in front of everyone. And then at the end of class, people would come up to you and say, we're so glad you're here. I'm also from Columbia, or I'm also work for ExxonMobil, or, if you have any questions, here's my card. I'm happy to help. If you were to take a tour of the school, students would come up to you and say, or you would notice that your tour guide would speak to every person they passed in the hallway by name, because there's only 350 students in the class, and the sections are only 60 students. And so there's plenty of opportunities to get to know everybody at the school by the first name. In terms of diversity in the student body, diversity is a core value of the Darden School. Because we teach through case method, it's super important that we bring in a class student body that represent a lot of different perspectives, values, and backgrounds. And so in admissions, we're consistently aiming to make sure that the students we're admitting are going to provide the diversity of background. So there's more statistics on the website, but we are constantly working to become even more diverse. That's all I can tell you. Do most students live on campus or throughout the city? How do they engage with each other? Most students live in, nobody lives on campus because we don't have that at UVA, but we do have 3 apartment buildings that are located directly across the street from the School of Business. And students typically live in one of those 3 buildings, with Ivy Gardens being the most popular apartment building. So usually around 7:30, when class is starting in a few minutes, everybody's door at Ivy Gardens opens and everyone starts walking to class. And so you'll have plenty of people to walk with you to class. You will engage. First year, you're going to get to know your learning team super well. You're going to get to know your section super well. And then you'll also probably join some student clubs. So everybody joins a few industry clubs. So consulting or private equity or entrepreneurship, depending on what your interest is, marketing. And then there are also what I call identity clubs. So like Global Women in Business, or the Black Business Student Association, or the Latin American Student Association, or Pride at Darden, or the Darden Christian Fellowship. So people are usually in a couple of those clubs. And then there's what I call the more volunteer clubs, community service clubs. So community consultants at Darden, where students go and do a consulting project for a startup or a nonprofit in the Charlottesville area. And then lastly are what I call the social clubs. And those are, the most popular one is the Outdoors Club, where Charlottesville is located right at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So lots of great hiking trails, lots of places to bike, lots of places to camp, white water rafting, snow skiing. And so the Outdoors Club coordinates a lot of events that students love to go on and blow out some steam after a stressful week. There's also a wine and cuisine club that's popular. There's a brewing club. There's a running club. There is a racket club. So, if there is not a club that you want to have at the school, you can start one. And so the clubs provide a lot of social events for students. There's also something called cold calls, which are Thursday evenings, and the whole school comes together. They bring in beverages and food, and people hang out and bring their families and their children, and there's music, and that's every Thursday night. And then every Thursday evening, after that, students will head down to some of the restaurants and bars and usually rent out a restaurant for the students to come and socialize every Thursday evenings. Are there scholarships for Latinos? Yes, we have a number of Latins who receive scholarships to come to Darden. So you don't need to fill out a separate application. You'll automatically be considered for that. Okay, Efren from Venezuela, does your university have 100% scholarship programs for international students? We do. And most of them are merit-based, so you're going to want to work hard to make your application strong, but there are also some scholarships that are specific and designed for specific countries. You can check out a list of those on our website. The cost information of housing. Okay, that's going to stretch me a little bit. I think it depends a little bit on if you're going to get a 2-bedroom apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment. I would imagine that the rent is running around $1,300 a month for a for an apartment in Charlotte, for a 2-bedroom apartment in Charlottesville, double check, Google Ivy Gardens, Charlottesville, apartment rent, you can find it. So it's not too expensive for the US. So here are our deadlines for coming up this year. We have one early action, and these are for people who know that Darden is a top choice of theirs and are willing to pay a little bit of a higher deposit. And in turn, we are a little bit more generous with early action students, both in terms of our offers and our scholarship decisions. And then we have the benefit of early action as well is that you get to schedule your own interview. You don't have to wait for Darden to invite you to interview. We also have 3 more rounds. I would say try to avoid applying in the 3rd round. We don't always have room. So we kind of fill up. So think of it as an auditorium. And in the beginning, the auditorium is empty. And as the rounds start going by, people start filling up seats. And so round 3 is always a little bit of a mystery in terms of how much room we're going to have. All right. So here are some different ways to learn a little bit about Darden. One thing that we're doing this year that I think is kind of fun is we're doing admissions workshops. So we're trying to help you with your application. So there's a lot of different topics that we're talking about. So check those out on our website and see if there's a workshop that is interesting to you. And then we also have an admissions blog with a ton of information. If you want to subscribe to that, you'll get a lot of information about Darden. We have a podcast, which is super fun to listen to. If you want to hear from some Latin students who are at Darden about what their experience has been like, find one of their podcast episodes and listen to that. And then let's see, do you have a standardized test waiver for this season? So we do have a waiver process for the GMAT or GRE exam. And you have to apply for the waiver. And in the application, we ask you to make a case for why you feel you qualify for GMAT. And it's we consider things like your professional work experience. We look at your academic undergraduate GPA. And we look at any certifications like the CFA exam, the CPA exam. We're really looking for a strong demonstration of quantitative aptitude. That's kind of what the GMAT and GRE help us assess. So I encourage you to fill out one of those. There's more of, we have more information about that under our frequently asked questions. So check that out. It'll answer a lot of those questions. Are there on-campus recruitment opportunities? Yes, I think we have somewhere between 150 and 200 companies that come to Charlottesville to recruit students at Darden. The top employers at Darden are McKinsey Consulting, Bain Consulting, BCG Consulting, Amazon, Wayfair, EY Parthenon. This is kind of stretching my memory a little bit, but a lot of the large companies that hire a number of MBAs every year. And where students live post Darden depends typically on the industry they're going into. If they're going to go work for Microsoft or Amazon, they're probably going to be in Seattle. If they're going to be working in finance, they're probably going to be in New York. If they're going to be working in consulting, there are a lot of different options because consulting firms have offices everywhere. Recent graduates say, I've heard a lot of wonderful things about the career support at Darden. We're constantly, the beautiful thing about Darden is that it's so responsive to student feedback. And so we're constantly evolving how we serve our students based on what students say. And so these senior directors that are working directly with MBAs who have backgrounds in the same fields are a direct a response to student feedback, and we have grown our career service team significantly. The top industries that Darden MBA grads work in, the number one is consulting, but keep in mind, just because we have so many students go into consulting, it doesn't mean they all stay in consulting. Typically, consulting is a really great first step out of business school that teaches you a lot of really great skills quickly that you can then leverage to pivot later into an industry that might be more interesting to you. Finance is also up there in terms of where our students head, and the third most popular would be technology. But we also have plenty of students that go into real estate and healthcare and marketing. And if you're interested in one of those smaller industries, it's nice to be a big fish in a smaller pond when the companies come to recruit. You're not competing with as many people to work for those companies. So the placement rate for MBA grads this past year, I think it was 96% of our students had, no, 93% of our students had an offer within 3 months of graduation. Glad you liked the presentation, Andres. A little bit more about the career guidance for internships and post-MBA. What would you say differentiates it from other programs? So I think that one of the differentiators is all of the work we do with our students before they even get to Darden. So the program is called CDY, WHY. Finding your why, career discovery why. And so the module of like doing self-assessment and then doing a company research and then meeting with a career coach all before you even come to school. We also have a class that is taught by the Career Center that runs throughout the entire first year curriculum that is helping you with your professional advancement. And we have your second year coach who's going to be helping you. I don't know how many other programs have second year coaching programs. We have workshops that are offered almost every day to support you in different areas of your career search. All the companies come on grounds. They are trying to get your attention over the summer, and Darden says, no, you cannot have their email addresses yet. They're not even at Darden. But as soon as you come to Darden, the floodgates are lifted and whoosh, in come the recruiters, and they are sending you emails and they are reaching out to you and knocking on your door saying, please come work for me, come work for me, no, come work for me. And they're competing against the other companies to try to get you to come work for them. And so that starts right when you get to school. And so that's why we spend so much time with students before they get there to help them understand how they're going to navigate all of that attention, because you haven't had that in a while. So that's really the first year internship. About 50% of students convert their internships into their full-time offer, and then about 50% of our students will come back still looking for other opportunities in their second year. And hopefully that helps answer the question. But feel free to reach out if you have more questions. Okay, in terms of your bank statement, how much money you should have, it is an expensive investment to go to business school. So I would go to the financial aid website at Darden, and we kind of lay out how much everything costs. And then most students will pay for their MBAs with a combination of scholarship money, loans. UVA does not require a co-signer on a loan. Savings, etc. So check that out. Hopefully you'll find that question. Any advice to reapplicants? Well, I can tell you we love reapplicants. It shows that you have tenacity, you have perseverance, you are not giving up, you really love Darden, which we love to see. So, but at the same time, we didn't have room for you in the prior year. If you applied later in round 3, it might just have been that we didn't have room for you. If you applied in an earlier round, it means there were weaker areas of your application compared to the broader pool. And most students tend to know what the weaker areas of their application were. So my advice is always to focus on the areas that you think you can strengthen. You can't do anything about your academic profile, but maybe a standardized test can help. Some additional work experience can help. Stronger recommendation letter can always help. Those are the most popular ways for strengthening your application. Okay, I have 3 more minutes. I'm trying to fly through these questions. Thanks for sending these. Top recruiters for corporate finance. Let's see, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, even some of the automobile companies hire students into corporate finance. EY Parthenon are some of the ones that come to mind. Check out the employment report. Study abroad programs. You can study abroad. You can also do a worldwide course. Darden actually gives a scholarship to every single full-time MBA student to go on a worldwide course. And that's a value of about $3,500. And so you'll definitely go on one worldwide course if that's something that's interesting to you. And then you can also do a global consulting project, which is basically an elective that you take where you're paired with a startup or a nonprofit in a developing country, and you're asked to solve a problem for them and meet with them over Zoom and then fly to their location to present your suggestions at the end. So there is no TOEFL minimum score. You know, I wouldn't be worried about the TOEFL scores. Like I've seen people in the 90s be admitted, and but over 100 is probably more common. But we'll also use your interview as it's not going to be a straight out deny for TOEFL scores under a certain age. If a certain score, if we're concerned about your English, we can also invite you to interview you and see if we have a trouble understanding you through an interview. And if no, then it won't matter what how you do on the TOEFL. Okay, what kind of support do Darden MBA students receive? What resources are available to MBA students? What is the size of the Alumni Network? Has over 18,000 alumni in it. Do current students get opportunities to engage with the Alumni Network while in the MBA program? I would say the most common way students engage with alumni is through recruiting. When we talk about these companies coming back to recruit students at Darden, it's usually Darden alumni who are doing the recruiting. They're very excited to come back to school to get more Darden alumni at their company. And so they do most of the recruiting, and that'll be a major way that you interact with alumni. We also do like we have a week in the beginning, it's called a career discovery forum, where we bring in alumni who serve as panelists and representing different industries, and telling you what a day in the life of working in their industry might be, and networking with students that way. Post-graduation, the benefits that students receive, we have free alumni career services for life, and we do a lot of different events in larger cities around the world. So mainly in San Francisco, New York, DC, Delhi, Shanghai, London. You'll see Darden doing regular events in those places. Can you work at Darden during your MBA? That is not possible, just given the busy schedule that students have. You're in class from 8 to 1:30. You have meetings from 1:30 to 6. You have learning team from 6 to 8. So there's really not a lot of time to take a job. And when does the recruitment process start for investment banking? Right away. And that's one of the earliest industries to do recruiting. So that's why we'll spend time working with you over the summer to get you ready to go, so that you are ready to get in front of those banks immediately. All right, thank you so much for being so engaged and for asking so many great questions. I'm going to type my email address here in the chat box. I would love for any of you to follow up with me with questions that you have, anything I didn't get around to answering, or anything that I didn't answer sufficiently. Don't hesitate to reach back out. Hopefully you'll attend one of our workshops coming up, or attend one of our coffee chats to get to learn more about the school. But good luck to each of you on your MBA pursuit. We're thrilled that you're looking at UVA and your journey, and I hope to stay in touch.
Thank you, Catherine, for this great presentation. I really enjoyed it, and we had great questions. So thank you all for coming, and we invite you right after this presentation. We'll have a presentation by Indiana University, Kelley School of Business, and we look forward to seeing you in all the other activities. Thank you, Catherine. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.